The Shadow Minister for Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Mwanga Chivumbi, presented the alternative opposition budget of 48.9 trillion Uganda shillings in a well-attended budget speech. In the total opposition alternative resource envelope of Uganda shillings 48.9 trillion, they look at URA collecting Uganda shillings 27.831 trillion. They also look at recoveries from tax exemptions to collect Uganda shillings 4 trillion. Recoveries by checking corruption amount to Uganda shillings 1 trillion. They also hope for a budget support of Uganda shillings 3.2 trillion and external borrowing at 6.716 trillion. Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, the president of the National Unity Platform Party, the leading opposition party in parliament, listened into the alternative budget presentation among the many guests that included the IGG, Olive Betty Kamia.
Implementing these proposals requires a change in the allocation of resources, so we must cut spending in areas that do not necessarily contribute to the well-being of our people. We should not continue wasting money buying tear gas and killing machines, because these are just for terrorizing our people.
According to the opposition, government officials have taken advantage of borrowing, especially debt rollover, to embezzle funds. These asked the Inspectorate of Government to take interest in all requests by government to borrow funds from all sources, locally and from international lenders.
If I'm a Minister of Finance, there will be no law that exempts any Ugandan from not paying tax. Because if just Parliament paid, our taxes in a financial year will be 100 billion. So every constituency will have the 100 you need for the road fund.
The alternative budget prioritizes and allocates Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries 1.49 trillion shillings, Ministry of Health dockets 2.952 trillion shillings, Education and Sports 460 billion, Gender, Labour and Social Development 660 billion, Lands, Housing and Urban Development pocket 193 billion, Works and Transport 3.52 trillion, Energy and Mineral Development 1.410 trillion, Trade, Industry and Cooperatives is allocated 1.453 trillion, Water and Environment 90 billion, Foreign Affairs 238 billion, Public Service goes away with 604 billion, the President's pockets 825 billion, KCCA moves with 2.075 trillion, Internal Affairs goes away with 1.401 trillion, Defense and Veteran Affairs pocket 2.127 trillion, Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities 695 billion, East African Community Affairs pockets 9.089 billion, Justice and Constitutional Affairs and the Judiciary pocket 1.751 trillion. The opposition expressed concern over what they called financial indiscipline by some ministers and implementing officials, which they blamed for the staggering economy.
For as long as you operate your economy on solvency and not on liquidity as a paradigm, you will not go very far. Solvency is economic kaunyemu. You know economic kaunyemu? It's for a disciplined economy, disciplined people who are likely not to pay back. They say, please reduce your debt to GDP debt ratio.
Uganda's budget estimates continue to grow each financial year, but the economy continues to grapple with inflation now at 10.04% and commercial bank interest rates nearly hitting 30%. The opposition proposes rationalized representation as a means to reduce government expenditure.
Some people will not be in this parliament. Parliament will be for a purpose, because under this arrangement, you nominate your presidential candidate and you're going to work for that candidate.
The opposition says it's up to the government to pick a leaf from the alternative budget for the betterment of Uganda.